Welcome, Mr. Maura.
So, as you can see, my topic is on training teachers on education for sustainable development in schools of education as the driver to equal opportunity. So the intention of this paper is to look at the teacher training colleges, the schools of education, how they can prepare teachers to become drivers when they become teachers in the field, to instill various skills and knowledge on sustainable development. As you can see, I mentioned earlier, the first bullet tackled that, and the key thing here is that we want our teachers to possess the competences. They need to be competent on what is sustainable development, how does it relate with ecology, how does it relate with economy, the social strata in the society. Therefore, this may also mean reorienting the curriculum that we use to train our teachers on values and the content of sustainable development. If you look at, these are some of the definitions. Basically, this is the common definition that sustainable development is that development that ensures that today we use resources in a way that we are stewards to have enough for ourselves today, and also to ensure that the future generations will also have enough. Therefore, this means we have to meet the basic needs of all, and among the basic needs we have to think about is education, equity in education. I think I may not want to overemphasize on understanding. I want to look at the historical background briefly of education for sustainable development. And as you can see, around 1970s is when the world became conscious that the way we were using resources, by 2072, we may have a challenge of resources. We may not have enough. We may come to an extinction. And the argument is that the earth is the only place that we know as home. For Christians, I know we know about the life after death. But as per now, the only place we know is the earth. But now this earth, the way we are managing this earth, the question is, will it be there for us tomorrow or for future generations? So as you can see, in 1987, there was the Brundtland Commission whose findings were adopted, and it looked, the first one looked at the growth and limits, and then this one looked at, it looks at our common future. We look at it, it talks about our common future, and it emphasized heavily on educating for sustainable development. There was another conference in Rio de Janeiro which dedicated itself to promoting education and public awareness and training. The meeting in South Africa in 2002 mainly came up with the UN Decade for Education for Sustainable Development. I think all of us are conversant with this, which ended in 2015, ushering in the adoption of sustainable development goals in 2015 and enforced in January 2016. And goal number 4 is on education. And 4.7 talks about specifically addresses that until 2030, all learners should have acquired the knowledge and skills needed to promote and enact sustainable development. So there are many scholars, mainly in North America, Europe, and South and Asia, who have try to justify why education is the conduit, is the tool through which we can achieve education for sustainable development. As you are all aware, majority of the children and the youth in the world go through the school. And it is in the school where we form the individual. So it is intended that through the education, we are able to instill the values, the knowledge and the skills, commitment of education. And here the teacher has been identified as central to educating for sustainable development. There, we continue showing quite most of these are published in peer-reviewed international journals on the justification of this. And there is even a lot that has been published on what people are doing, especially in the developed world. So we can move on. So in 2015, in Korea, this was emphasized that our vision is to transform lives through education, recognizing the important role of education as main drive of a development, and more importantly, with the teacher as the center person. Let's go on. We could share with, in this regard, I want to emphasize that one I have already emphasized. Move on. Teacher is still seen as the most powerful instrument on earth, and I think all of us agree with that. We all have, even here, we look at our lecturers, our teachers as models. Therefore, the learners would also use them as models. Can move on. I want us to move at the theoretical framework, which so now, the theoretical framework which has been largely adopted in terms of education for sustainable development is ex contra learning model, where you look at the experiential part of it. You want the individual teacher who is learning to become a teacher, and even the learner that will teach, to give them an opportunity to experience the reality. Let them experience a manageable drainage. For instance, this building is an example when it rains of an unsustainable building. So when all our facilities here are locked with water, our books are locked with water, then you also ask them, now that you have experienced that, how then can you be involved in constructing knowledge and then apply that knowledge so that you transform. This person now becomes a change agent and becomes a sustainable leader. Therefore, we will not have individual graduates of universities, products of schools being involved in a sustainable lifestyle. And if I were to ask all of us to mention unsustainable lifestyle, there are many. Yeah. Constructing where we should not do construction, destroying forests, commercializing almost everything, and so on and so forth. So, and you can move on. I want to go to conclusion. The conclusion is that educating teachers to be the drivers of sustainability is envisioning the transformative role of the teacher in educating the youth to understand the complexity of the world we live in, to become agent of life with sustainable limits. And here we are looking at whether whatever they do for business, whatever interaction they have in society. And I would also like to emphasize that whatever knowledge we talk about in sustainable development must be culturally and contextually relevant. So that is my presentation in brief, because I was asked to take a short break. Thank you.